From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Most people in developed countries have no problems getting prescription eyeglasses. They go to an ophthalmologist, a trained specialist who treats problems and diseases of the eye. They may receive a prescription, which gives the patient permission to buy and use eyeglasses. But in poor countries like Rwanda, it may take a lot more time, effort, and money. Rwanda has only 14 ophthalmologists to serve the country's 11 million people. But now a British-based group is helping up to 1 million Rwandans with poor eyesight. The group is called Vision for a Nation. It will soon start testing new eyeglasses that wearers can adjust or change to improve their eyesight. James Chen set up Vision for a Nation. He says Rwanda is one nation where there is a great need for the glasses, especially among school children. Most of the Rwandans need simple reading glasses. They also might be able to use adjustable glasses. James Chen is the founder of the eyewear manufacturer AdLens. The company produces two kinds of special adjustable glasses. Mr. Chen says they are easy to use and have a wide range of magnifications, which makes something look bigger. He says his company has two kinds of technologies for adjustable glasses. Thanks to the World Bank, Rwandans will pay only about $1.50 for these glasses. But that amount is still about 3 days' wages in their country. Vision for a Nation might also provide a similar service in other countries. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. About 500 American companies operating in China say they are making a profit. But top-level officials with the companies say they increasingly feel unwelcome and targeted by the Chinese government. The American Chamber of Commerce in China, known as AmCham China, recently released the survey results of its members. 57% of top-level managers said they feel Chinese officials are concerned about investigating foreign companies. The survey said that nearly half of the officials felt unwelcome doing business in the country. However, most businesses asked said they remain profitable or very profitable. In China, the investigation of foreign companies has become common since President Xi Jinping took power. Chinese officials have examined the operations of Microsoft, Qualcomm, Audi, McDonald's, and other foreign companies. AmCham China represents more than 1,000 U.S. businesses. Its chairman, James Zimmerman, says he does not believe the government is targeting such companies on purpose. The group's representatives often meet with U.S. and Chinese officials. It can be difficult for private companies to operate in China's business environment. China has experienced huge changes since it moved from a planned economy to a more market-driven one. However, the state still has a strong influence, and foreign companies can find it hard to compete against state-owned businesses. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. We can express thoughts and feelings and send sounds and pictures on our smartphones today. We also communicate using programs like Skype and FaceTime. We cannot send tastes, smells, or touch, of course. But scientists in Britain are trying to develop a way for smartphones to do just that. Adrian David Chalk is a professor at City University in London. He wants people to experience communication using all of their senses. To give users a sense of taste, researchers designed two electrodes that are placed on the tongue. A chemical process creates different tastes through molecules on the surface of the tongue. This chemical process sends electrical signals that convince the brain that a person is tasting something. They have already created sour, salty, sweet, and bitter tastes. A device called Senti attaches to a smartphone and can spray tiny clouds of smells, including flowers, fruits, and coffee. A person can turn the device on by speaking. It is a ring-like device that provides the sense of touch. It is connected wirelessly to the smartphone. The device sends a soft electrical squeeze when a person on the other end of a telephone conversation does the same. Professor Chalk says this permits a kind of wireless touch communication. He says you can squeeze your finger in one place and the other person gets a squeeze on their finger through the internet. He says this technology may change the future of long-distance communication. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Science Report. People around the world benefit from large-scale food production. Many people can buy many fruits and vegetables throughout the year that were once sold for only a few months. But there is a price to pay for this year-round availability. The fruits and vegetables, like tomatoes, carrots, and strawberries, often do not taste as good as they once did. Researchers throughout the United States are working to change that. Andrew Mace is a professional cook at a restaurant in Portland, Oregon. Mr. Mace says he hopes the researchers can create fruits and vegetables that are easy to ship and store, but that also taste good. Across the United States, breeders, farmers, seed producers, and professional cooks are working together to create vegetables that have more flavor and more vitamins too. Breeders are people who create and grow plants for production. Jim Myers is a plant breeder at Oregon State University. He says many genetic differences are available. He tries to create fruits and vegetables that taste good, but also have resistance to disease, can be stored for a long time, and can be shipped without being damaged. Mr. Myers says the lab has created a program to connect breeders with chefs. He says developers are going back to their traditional roots as breeders to improve vegetables. Phil Simon is a vegetable breeder at the U.S. Agricultural Research Service. He says the local food movement in North America and other places is responsible for the increased interest in the flavor of fruits and vegetables. Mr. Simon says local growers are seeking to provide new varieties of vegetables to meet the demand of buyers. For VOA Learning English, I'm Jonathan Evans. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. On August 1st, 2007, a steel bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota collapsed, sending people and vehicles into the Mississippi River. 13 people died and more than 140 others were injured. The bridge collapse took place during rush hour, a time when many cars and trucks are on the road. Investigators found that undersized metal parts of the bridge simply could not support the heavy load. Finding hidden cracks or breaks and other weak areas in large structures can be the difference between life and death. Researchers in Britain say they have discovered a new way to identify cracks inside metal parts before they fail. Their method involves sound imaging. Anthony Croxford leads the team of scientists at Bristol University. They begin by sending hundreds of different ultrasonic waves into a structure. Then, Mr. Croxford says, they listen and study the echoes of the sound waves to identify the smallest cracks. Anthony Croxford says this method is unlike a purely linear system. A linear system creates echoes or similar versions of the sound wave sent into the material. In other words, you would hear the same frequency coming back from the object. Mr. Croxford says his phased array system of sending out sound waves returns echoes of different frequencies. The technology could help safety inspectors get more detailed estimates of damage in materials like aircraft parts and bridge supports. The damaged materials could then be replaced before they fail. For VOA Learning English, I'm Jonathan Evans.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Today, we continue talking about public speaking, centering on the physical message of presentation. Some call this body language. Charles Lebeau is an author and professor of public speaking. Mr. Lebeau tells VOA that body language includes posture, eye contact, and gestures, how you move your hands or arms. He says that many non-native presenters have problems with these things because they are nervous. How a speaker moves is important. Whole body movement should be slow and planned to command attention and communicate confidence. Public speakers know that they should look at the audience while they speak, but some look at their notes on a paper or on a screen. This can cause a big problem because they can have trouble with eye contact. Charles Lebeau says the best way to avoid this problem is to use images and few words for notes instead of sentences. Holding on to notes also makes it more difficult for a speaker to gesture naturally. Mr. Lebeau discusses this in his book, Speaking of Speech. He says gestures should support the point the speaker is making. For example, when talking about 3 ideas, hold up 3 fingers to introduce them. Another important part of public speaking is practice. Try to remember this advice about the physical message. Be aware of your posture, eye contact, and gestures. Record yourself using a phone, tablet, or camera. Watch yourself and plan what you will do to improve. Then find another opportunity to speak and gain more experience. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Most scientists agree that increasing amounts of carbon dioxide gas in Earth's atmosphere are partly to blame for rising temperatures, also known as climate change. The most cost-effective way to get power still comes from burning fossil fuels, such as coal, oil, and natural gas. But burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide, known to scientists as CO2. Keeping the leftover CO2 from entering the atmosphere is a difficult and costly process. Scientists are looking for the best and least costly methods for capturing the gas and storing it away from the atmosphere. Some of this research is taking place in Western Norway. The Technology Center in Mongstad is the largest facility in the world for major testing of new CO2 capturing technologies. The center is called TCM. Tore Amundsen is its chairman. Tore Amundsen says there are things to be learned about operating large machinery designed to capture CO2 from power stations. TCM is connected to a nearby electric power plant. Mr. Amundsen says the center treats exhaust fumes from the plant. It uses chemical solvents or thinners to pull the CO2 molecules from the exhaust gas. They can use the solvent again to capture more CO2. But Mr. Amundsen says the process is still costly and raises the price of electricity by up to 40%. Experts say the best way to store the captured gas is to place it underground, but it is expensive, and so far, only Canada has a power plant that pumps CO2 gas underground. Other countries are building similar power plants. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. 10-year-old Owaish Batliwala from Mumbai, India, admits he spends 3 to 4 hours each day playing games on his tablet computer. His mother, Mezabine, says playing video games for hours has caused pain in his neck, hand, and back. Sadia Vanjara is a physical therapist. She treats people's painful injuries. She says the number of young children with continuing pain in their necks, arms, and shoulders is on the rise. Dr. Vanjara says the pain is from poor posture or body position while playing video games on their smartphones and gadgets. This is a problem in many parts of the world. But there are more smartphone users in India than anywhere else in the world except China. One company estimates that the number of smartphone users in India will increase from 140 million today to 651 million by 2020. Dr. Vanjara says the best treatment for the pain is daily stretching exercises. Correct posture can also help prevent pain. Dr. Vanjara teaches children how to hold their gadgets correctly. She tells a patient to hold the gadget in front of the face. She says that bending the head down to look at the device hurts the neck and creates an unhealthy bend to the back. Sadia Vanjara predicts we will also see psychological and emotional problems resulting from overuse of gadgets. Experts advise taking breaks from using a computer or other device often. Stand up. Stretch your legs, back, shoulders, and arms. And when your work is done, unplug and exercise. For VOA Learning English, I'm Jonathan Evans.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Science Report. As the population grows and temperatures rise, it will become more difficult to grow enough food for everyone. So scientists are looking for plants that need less water than today's crops. The U.S. Mojave Desert in California is home to some of these plants. Scientist Heather Rose Cates of the University of Florida searches the desert for a plant called the coyote melon. They are in the same plant family as butternut squash, zucchini, and pumpkins. Those vegetables are popular around the world. Ms. Cates describes the coyote melon's flavor as terrible. She is collecting the coyote melon because it can be grown in places with little rainfall. Other kinds of squash need much more water to grow. Scientists are considering combining wild coyote melon with regular squash to see if they can make a tasty vegetable that doesn't need as much water to grow. Andy Jarvis works at the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. He says farmers will need to produce 50 to 70% more food by 2050 to feed the world. Mr. Jarvis says researchers are studying the wild versions of farm-grown crops. The problem is many wild versions of farm plants and their seeds are disappearing. Ms. Cates is part of an international effort to gather these plants and save their seeds for future use. Workers are collecting wild oats in Cyprus, wild potatoes in Argentina, and wild peppers in Paraguay. The plants and seeds will be sent for storage to the Global Seed Vault in Norway and at Kew Gardens in Britain. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Recycling or reusing metals is much less costly than making them from raw materials. But when old cars, household appliances, and industrial equipment are thrown away, metals are mixed and often difficult to separate. So they are usually placed into landfills. The United States Environmental Protection Agency says almost 15 million tons of this scrap metal is placed into landfills every year. Although iron and steel are easily separated with strong magnets, other metals such as copper, aluminum, and titanium are not. Products with a mix of these metals are either sent to landfills or to other countries where workers separate the different metals by hand. But a group of scientists say they have created a machine to separate these light metals. Don Eggert is the founder of O2M Technologies. His company worked with the University of Utah to develop the metal separation technology. Mr. Eggert says the system is based on the knowledge that all metals react to a strong magnetic field. If you drop the metals into a magnetic field, different metals react in different ways. He says changing the frequency of that magnetic field causes the metal pieces to fall into different containers. In this way, they can be separated. Mr. Eggert says the separator is not costly to build, but it works only with metal pieces up to 1 centimeter wide. The researchers also are building a bigger magnet to separate larger metal parts. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.